Hey, my lovely, lovely, wonderful, amazing people. A pleasant evening to everybody. So I'm looking at the Wednesday's Jamaica Star. It says, I know today is Thursday, but it says here, Diddy to be sentenced on October 3. Let's read it. It says Sean Diddy Combs will be sentenced in his federal criminal case on October 3, a judge said Tuesday. This after probation officials rejected the defense and prosecution's plan to move the date up by about 2 weeks. Combs, who remains jailed after a split verdict last week, spoke briefly to his lawyer Mark Agnifilo during a virtual hearing on the scheduling issue that lasted all of 2 minutes. At one point, he asked the lawyer to turn on his camera so they could see each other's faces. The hip hop mogul's lawyers had been urging Judge Arun Subramanian to sentence him as soon as possible after jurors acquitted him last week on racketeering and sex trafficking, but convicted him on two prostitution related charges. Combs, 55, faces up to a decade in prison for each of two counts of transportation to engage in prostitution for flying people around the country, including his girlfriends and male sex workers, for sexual encounters. A conviction on racketeering conspiracy or sex trafficking could have put him in prison for life. Prior to Tuesday's hearing, Combs's lawyers and prosecutors filed a joint letter proposing a September 22 sentencing date, subject to the consent of the U.S. Probation Office. A short time later, they filed a second letter stating that all parties, including the probation office, were on board with the October 3 date Subramanian originally proposed. Combs got a standing ovation from the fellow inmates when he returned to jail after the verdict last week. Agnifilo said, "The Bad Boy Records founder will remain at the federal lockup in Brooklyn, where he's been held since his arrest last September after Subramanian last week rejected his request for bail." Listen, the judge, citing a now infamous video of Combs beating a former girlfriend and photographs showing injuries to another ex-girlfriend, made clear that he plans to hold Combs accountable for the years of violence and bullying behavior that were exposed at his 8-week trial. Combs's lawyers want less than the 21 to 27 months in prison that they believe the sentencing guidelines recommend. Prosecutors contended that the guidelines, when properly calculated to include Combs's crimes and violent history, like many men here in Jamaica, and so, call for at least 4 to 5 years in prison. Combs's punishment is Subramanian's decision alone, and the judge will have a wide latitude in determining a sentence. While judges often adhere to the federal judiciary's formulaic guidelines meant to prevent disparity in sentences for the same crimes, they are not mandatory. As part of the sentencing process, Combs must give an interview to probation officers for a pre-sentence investigation report that will aid the judge in determining the proper punishment. Listen to me. I personally believe that, especially on violent acts, that people really and truly must be held accountable. When we saw that video of him, Jesus, beating Cassie, it was unbelievable. It was one of the most difficult things to watch. And I said to myself, for men who are abusers, when you see these things, does it give you a rise? Does it give you a kick? Do you not have one female in your life? Because some of you come from terrible homes. Maybe an overbearing mother, a mother with Jezebel-like attitude, was just horrible and terrible. But when you literally, there must be that one female that you come across in your life whom you have lots of respect for. Doesn't that kind of ring home the encounters you have with that wonderful female, when you see a man treating her that way. One of the disturbing things that bother me is that men have always failed to take accountability for me. I've heard Les Brown say that. And because I don't know if they think that they have the upper hand, they think that they're the gods, that the cat's meow. And they think that they have a right. I was reading another article where centuries now, men think that women were their properties. So women are second class to them, so they can really treat their property any old way. And because of the thinking that they have, some men, most men, many men have, some of them see nothing wrong with what this man has done. One of the things that male fail to recognize is this, in the book of Peter 3, 1 Peter 3, I think verse 7. Husbands, be careful not to embitter, be careful not to be harsh, not to abuse your wives, because if you do, your prayers are going to be hindered. Let me liken it onto this one. It says, he that findeth a wife, really a good wife, findeth a good thing, and it doesn't stop there, and obtains favor from the Lord. So therefore it tells a story that when God brought you that helpmate, he was bringing you a blessing. He brought you a blessing. That is what he did. He brought blessing to you, favor to you. And you decide to take the blessing and suffocate it and strangle it and treat it with disdain, because you were not taught how to respect women and honor women and cherish women and value women. That is why you have many people like Diddy Combs doing what he did to Cassie, doing to others, and not being held accountable for it. And one of the things that bothers me is that some of you will say women are not being held accountable. So instead of just taking accountability and let the chips fall where they may, meaning when it is time for the women to be held accountable, they will be held accountable. You still find a way to say, oh, when women are abusing men, nothing comes of it. Are you aware that women are made as a weaker vessel? Physically speaking, we're talking. That men are physically stronger than women. So if a woman, let us say, for example, takes her hand, which I discourage, I do not support women hitting men, and definitely I don't support men hitting women. I don't support either of the two. But if a woman takes her hand, or weaker of the two vessel hands, and slap you, it might sting you. You take your hand and slap her, she might die. I want you to understand the difference because of the power and the might that is in your hand. You remember Samson? He took a bone and slew 1,000 men. Him alone, with God obviously help. But he was that strong physically. And you know that you are stronger than us physically. So when you take your big all-steering hand, like gorilla hand, and hit the woman, it's a different blow than when she takes her hand and hit you. Am I supporting her hitting you? No. I just said I don't support abuse. Not at all. But they cannot be compared in any way, in any shape, and any form. Cannot be compared. And statistics show, go and read it, I don't need to tell you. You can go and check that men physically abuse women leaps and bounds more than women. So when she come and she might, because you know that little lick when she gave up off your hand, and when she vex and she go, the cat fight. Some of you, it's just like a joke. Sometimes I have some friends, I may say it too, when me hit the man, it come like a my hand in a pain. Let me say, Lord, I'm wondering if it's a human body I'm hitting or a piece of iron. The way how the testosterone, the masculine in the man. When I'm playfully just going like this, I feel like my hand out for broke. I'm yet to hear a fleet of men really and truly apologizing, not out of narcissism, not out of because, you don't want to be alone, but genuinely meaning it and saying, I'm sorry, and not just saying it and go back to doing it. Stop abusing women. Stop abusing women. I will do videos about women need to stop abusing men, verbally especially. But many of you, you're horrible, terrible men. And it's not mental illness. Guys, you know what to do. Rate TikTok and YouTube. Subscribe. Give me one of those lines.